Now to continue our theme here on the Neishloss NF podcast with carrier rep interviews and kind of venturing around the country, but we've recently been around our border, either our rival in the state over there in Philly or around, but now we're going to go to maybe another rival area of Pittsburgh, but our neighbors over there in Cleveland and in Northeast Ohio in particular, and talk about what a major carrier is doing over there. So on this edition of the NF podcast here, brought to you by Neishloss and Fleming and Integrity Marketing Group, I am your host, Mike Asti, and I'm going to be joined with Brad Petrella, who is a broker manager with UnitedHealthcare of all carriers. So there's the big kahuna over there representing Northeast Ohio, getting to the Cleveland area, all the good stuff over there in that region of Ohio. So number one, Brad, we definitely appreciate the time. Thanks for joining me for sure.
Oh, you're welcome, Mike.
And, really to get moving into this here, UnitedHealthcare is obviously a known carrier that's having success and always going to be around. It's something that everyone's aware of, but what they're doing in each area sometimes is different, and they're always moving and always trying to expand and even better themselves. And I even learned that from past shows where UnitedHealthcare maybe saw something in one area that wasn't doing well, they wanted to adjust. So it shows you a carrier that, despite being a top dog, is willing to adjust to keep making it better for the agents and the clients. But moving into that Northeast Ohio market, in particular, that area, specifically around Cleveland, which is that major area, a lot going on over there in that part of Ohio. What do you think some products are right now that are doing well, are going to generate some high sales, some highlights that consumers either are or could be interested in, particularly in that area?
Okay, right. Well, hey, first, thanks for calling me the big kahuna. I don't know if that was me or that was UnitedHealthcare.
I was going
but I've always
UnitedHealthcare, but
fancied myself as Hawaiian.
I'll give it to you both. How about that? I'll give
All
it to
right,
you both.
excellent. Thanks. Awesome, Mike. So, UnitedHealthcare in Northeast Ohio has been strong. So I've been with my partner and I, Tim Klaus, have been together. We were hired about a month apart.
Okay.
Back in 2017. So we'll be approaching our third year. We were lucky coming into the market when we did. And that was really and I think they brought two broker managers on because there was a product that was going to be really outstanding, and it has been ever since. It's called Plan One. It's a $21 premium, and it's, over these 3 years, has grown to be the number one plan in the market. Our brokers have essentially doubled the business in sales from that first AEP of 2018. So it's just been really amazing. The reception to Tim and I, to the product, because it had things that nobody else had at the time, Mike. And then we have a zero premium plan as well, Plan 7. And it was just kind of and also ran, I think, quite a bit of the time, but they kind of juiced up the benefits for this last AEP for the plan year 2020. And it actually had a pretty fair amount of sales. And then we also introduced a new product called a Walgreens PPO. And when I first saw the PPO come out, I'm like, why do we need a PPO in Northeast Ohio? We have every hospital in Northeast Ohio. Why would we need that? So it actually, once I saw the light, it was really for, and I think many of you know who sell UnitedHealthcare, is that we have this really fantastic benefit called Passport, which enables our members to have visiting member benefits in about 36 other states. But there are 50 states in this country. Actually, it's 48 continental is what it applies to, but we're not in all 48. We're about 12 or 13 short. So this is where that really fits. So interesting when, post AEP, and I ran some numbers, it was really interesting that Walgreens PPO as a new plan garnered like 12% of sales, which I've never seen anything like that to get that much traction so early. And our also ran zero plan, plan 7, was actually 25% of the sales. So that was really, really pretty interesting when our plan 1, the $21 premium, pretty much drove all of our plans and drove the market. So that's kind of where we are.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
Yeah, no, I was just going to say, I think that's big too, to talk about $21 plan, and even how there's a $0 plan too. But the $21 plan, it's a great plan and has the name brand. It has a comfortable carrier with it, and it's still not that expensive. So I think that's a misconception maybe with some of the major carriers, especially with the UnitedHealthcare, that UnitedHealthcare is not going to carry plans that are that cheap just because they're UnitedHealthcare, but that's not the case at all. So that's a misconception that definitely has seen success.
Yeah, I mean, absolutely. I mean, at the time, a plan premium. So when I was an agent just a year or so before, I sold the plan, and it's probably the reason I got this job, actually. Nearly all the customers I wrote were in that plan 1, and at the time it was $23. And so that next year, when I was a broker manager, it had gone down to 21, and the benefits got even more enhanced. So at the time, we were adding $1,000 worth of zero copay dental. Well, you all know that you can't buy a $1,000 dental program that costs anything near $21. So think about a zero premium plan, and you're adding a rider that costs $21, and you have no copays and no waiting period. Right. Like most traditional standalone dental plans.
Right, and that's huge, because there's even competing against ancillaries that deal with dental and those type of plans. They're still, generally speaking, more expensive than $21. So yeah.
Correct. Yeah, I mean, at lowest I've seen is like mid-30s.
Right.
And you're probably looking at a 50-50 co-insurance. And we had there was strong vision in there. We have our great hearing aid benefit as well. It's actually on all UnitedHealthcare plans, and it's actually gotten better because we bought last year a network of audiologists around the country. So that only enhanced the former mail order component, where people or members can actually see a local audiologist. So that's been really great. And then in 2019. We added this cool new benefit, which was I think we were the first, at least in our market, to offer such a thing, but that was our over-the-counter benefit, or over-the-counter products benefits. And it's actually, of all the ancillary, we've asked this question in rollout meetings, Mike, what's the most commonly used ancillary benefits? Dental, vision, hearing, over-the-counter, transportation, although we don't have that in Northeast Ohio or anywhere in Ohio. And everybody said dental, right? Because that's what we pitch.
Right.
It was actually over the counter by a long shot. So that's actually been really good. And, a lot of my competitors have jumped on the over the counter here as well.
Yeah, no, it definitely makes sense. I definitely think that's the ancillary that I end up talking about the most with agents. And when you have a situation where it ends up, you can just group it in with UnitedHealthcare. You can stick with the UnitedHealthcare, and you're actually not paying more. And when you have a big brand name, and we have a company like UHC, you're going to have expansion. You're going to have them buying different doctors, different facilities, different places like that to keep on making plans better and better as the years go by. Now, that kind of an interesting segue, though, because obviously UnitedHealthcare is a carrier that's been around for a while. It's had tremendous success, and it's improving these plans and offering more and more as the years go by. But again, sticking kind of in particular to the Cleveland market, to Northeast Ohio, which is the trend here of the show, in terms of selling UnitedHealthcare for the agents, there's obviously still going to be some challenges. They just exist with everything. Consumers are going to try to be negative maybe sometimes. They're not going to fully understand something. The Medicare industry is changing so rapidly all the time, it's hard to keep track of for any of us. So there's going to be some challenges there, certainly in particular areas. So if you're giving advice, if you're sitting down with an agent who maybe comes to you and as a broker manager and says, I agree with you with what you're saying. This is a great plan, but I keep hearing these negatives. I can't get it in the client's hands. I'm not having success with it. It's right now just burning a hole through my portfolio to be continuously wasting my time talking about these different plans or whatever it may be. What advice maybe would you give? What type of challenges do you think are out there, and kind of an approach that maybe would be better for the agents if they are having trouble with those challenges?
Right. Well, I mean, I tell you, I think one of the biggest obstacles, and if I'm not here tomorrow, Mike, you'll know where to find me. It's the whole AARP thing, right? Because we're co-branded with AARP. Some clients, some agents, I would hope not so many agents, but clients think that AARP is fairly politically charged and right-leaning, and if you're left-leaning, and if you're right-leaning, then you don't want anything to do with it. And I had actually personal experience with one of my own clients where the spouse or the wife had to talk the husband into it. She's like, it's Brad and it's UnitedHealthcare. It's not AARP. And that's the thing I really try to tell agents. It says insured by UnitedHealthcare. AARP is not the insurance. It's basically just the co-brand. And it's been really successful for us and for them. It's why UnitedHealthcare nationally represents 26% of all Medicare market share. And the next closest competitor is like 17%. And then, when you carry that out, we're bigger than number 3, 4, and 5 combined. So that brand has done a lot for us, more than I think the detraction. So that's the biggest obstacle, Mike, that I hear, that's really kind of the glaring one. The other one that I've heard recently, right, with the advent of our new Walgreens PPO, there's a reason for that. Some people think that HMOs are a bad word. They're not really. It's actually, as most all of you know, it's really where Medicare is going. In my first foray into this industry 10 years ago, I worked for the ultimate HMO, Kaiser Permanente. And so nobody knows what an HMO is like until you work for a company like that. And there's several companies out there around the country that have that similar kind of model. But in Northeast Ohio, what does HMO mean here? HMO, and actually not just Northeast Ohio, but all of Ohio, means no referral to see a specialist. And that's not true in all parts of the country with our Medicare Advantage plans, but we're fortunate to have that. And that's the hugest selling point that I try to tell agents, that they need to make sure they're communicating it. Because everybody thinks of the bad HMO from the 60s and 70s, right? Where it was true gatekeeper model, and we're far from it now. So those are the two challenges I see, Mike.
And I actually would agree. I mean, I think the AARP is definitely a challenge that I do hear, speaking with agents or speaking with clients or really anyone. But I think it is the most important thing that you hit the nail on the head, and what I try to communicate as well, that putting anyone's political differences aside, and everyone's going to have them, it's about serving the client, and if it's the person, about getting served the best you can and having the plan that works for you the best. So if this plan is going to work for you the best and it fits in regardless of the AARP label, it's about having UnitedHealthcare. It's about that brand name. It's going to be around for a while. It's been in the Medicare market for a while. And it's not like you're necessarily signing up with a political party. You're signing up with UnitedHealthcare, and you're welcome to vote in the other direction if you would like, but you're still able to be, protected with that particular plan that just happens to work well for you. And, maybe another plan would work better for your friend, and it'll be the reverse of what that person believes in. So yeah, I think that separating politics from that label is something that I've noticed, but it really, if that's the only detractor, there gotta be ways to get around that, because it's nothing to do with signing up with a political party. It does not affect anyone's vote or anything like that. But yeah, I've heard that before. That definitely does exist, and that is that is a challenge with that particular brand name. Even though generally speaking in the industry, you'd like to have a brand name, and UnitedHealthcare is the best one out there. Go ahead.
Well, Mike, it was interesting. I think like a year ago, AARP came to UnitedHealthcare and wanted to extend the contract for another 9 years. So they're obviously happy
Right.
with how it's working, one, and two, it's serving their paid membership, right? So it's just another offering. And, you know, if you're a UnitedHealthcare agent, you get your first 3 years of AARP membership for free. I'm part of a Facebook Medicare group or two. And, you know, the one comment that was actually quite funny is, you know, when I go out to a restaurant and I hand them my AARP card, they look at me strange and say, well, how did you get this? And then they say, I'm a UnitedHealthcare agent, and so I get this as a benefit. And so that's actually really great, because that's another referral source, actually.
Right.
Because the waitress or waiter may say, you know, my mom is going to be going through Medicare, or my dad. And so it's just a great segue, especially for somebody far younger than me, to be able to do that. And I mean, AARP has a lot of quality control over what we do. Some agents may actually hear from an AARP rep who basically just wants to meet with agents, talk to them about what's good, what's bad, just get a really good feeling. So I had no idea this existed until one of my agents called me with this about a year and a half ago. And I met her. We were doing MedSup rollouts earlier this spring, or MedSup revisits. And by the way, I only talked about Medicare Advantage in your earlier question, but you know, MedSup here in Ohio, because it's the same rate throughout the state. We don't do separate regions. Our MedSup is flying off the shelf, so to speak. And first time in my 3 years, its sales have exceeded Medicare Advantage sales for about the past 2 months in a row.
And that's big, because I think a lot of agents, I mean, there are some agents, as everyone knows, some love having Med Advantage and MedSup in their portfolio, which is the ideal thing. Some only work with one of the two. And some, when they hear UnitedHealthcare, they think Med Advantage, Med Advantage, Med Advantage. But there's so much more, and there's a lot of success on the MedSup side, brand or not. So that there's reason to get involved just in general. So yeah, I think that's really, really big. And AARP it's almost one of those branded labels in the world, like Kleenex. You hear Kleenex and you think tissue, when in reality Kleenex is just a brand name. You're looking for a tissue no matter what it's called. That's kind of, you're waiting for a certain age. When am I going to get my AARP card? When in reality it's just, you're the age of Medicare. It's not necessarily just that brand, but people are waiting. They think they have to be involved with that brand, because that's what happens when you get to a certain age. So I think branding wise, that the success has certainly been there, and that can create some stability, which can certainly be a reason for agents to want to work with it, but also for clients to feel comfortable, regardless of political beliefs. Now, you mentioned what's going on in Cleveland in terms of what's hot on the Med Advantage and the MedSup side, but what also is red hot in the Cleveland area in particular doesn't necessarily maybe get as much steam in terms of agents being as aware, but the numbers say it's red hot, and that's the DSNP market. So can you elaborate a little bit on how UnitedHealthcare stands out amongst the rest of the carriers in the DSNP market, most notably NEOhio, which is an X factor there?
Right. Yeah. So NEOhio, Mike, is not really a competitor so much as it is the base product from which all DSNPs are based.
Okay.
Right. And we'll get into it here in a second about the process for a beneficiary exercising choice. But, you know, we've had, I think now for like 4 years running, just an amazing sales growth year over year, where, you know, on average, I think this past year we did 13,000 members or new sales. The previous 2 years, it was like 10,000 and 8,000 was our goal that very first year, and we hit 9,000. So we're selling it really well, and we haven't even scratched the surface. In Ohio, there are 367,000 duly eligible Medicare, Medicaid beneficiaries. We have, I think, I'm trying to remember, the market share for all DSNP in the market is like 17%. So that's virtually nothing when you look at all carriers. We have a really strong foothold, or the strongest foothold. I'm trying to think what else I wanted to talk about with regard to DSNP. So
Right.
how is a DSNP plan, whether it's from UnitedHealthcare or any of my competitors, different from a MyCareOhio plan? MyCareOhio is really simply Ohio's name for something that 9 other states also have, but call it something else. And what it really is CMS calls it an MMP plan, Medicare Medicaid plan. So that's defining it. And this is basically a demonstration project. The demonstration, I think, was supposed to lapse this year, but I've heard no signs of it being retracted, because in the minds of Ohio Medicaid or some of the other state Medicaid program, it's working really well because they have all 367,000 of those people enrolled in a plan. So that's a good thing. So that's what CMS wants. That's what Medicaid wants to manage care for this at-risk population. So what's the process? How does DSNP come into a market where that exists? Well, MyCareOhio only exists in the urban areas throughout Ohio. So here in Northeast Ohio, Cleveland, Akron, Canton, Youngstown, those are the areas that comprise the biggest parts of our territory in Northeast Ohio. Columbus, Cincinnati, Dayton, and Toledo. Those are the markets for MyCareOhio, which is probably about 35 to 40 of the 88 counties in Ohio. So the other 50-ish counties in Ohio don't have MyCare. They have straight Medicaid. So you don't have to worry about this thing I'll talk about next called the opt-out process. Do you think your agents have heard about opt-out, Mike?
Oh, it's possible, but I certainly think any that have could use a clarifier, and any that haven't could certainly use to be informed.
Sure. So it's a process that has to be done very precisely. And I would say to any of your agents, I know we often together, Mike, Neishloss and Fleming, and UnitedHealthcare will do some road shows where we will talk about topics like this more specifically and in depth.
Right.
But the simple process to this is, when the program was set up, it was to basically auto enroll people into a plan. In Northeast Ohio, there are 3 carriers, UnitedHealthcare being one of them, and Buckeye and CareSource. For full disclosure, I'm not going to hold anything back. Okay. And the other 2 carriers are Aetna and Molina, and they're in the southwest part of the state. So a beneficiary in Northeast Ohio is auto-assigned to one of those 3 companies or carriers. So at that point, the beneficiary has a right to exercise their choice and select their own Medicare provider. The Medicaid provider has to stay in place because that's the thing that makes the whole deal work, right? That's what gets them the 0 copays on all of their medical benefits and gives them their LIS benefits for prescription drug. So that process involves, the client making a call to MyCareOhio and very precisely telling them what it is they want to do, and then the agent can enroll them, and then you have an enrollment, and then you have a commission. That's really the short and skinny version. When we have a meeting, then we'll go down really deep in the weeds to explain it to your agents, or we have lots of training, on-demand learning on the UnitedHealthcare Jarvis Knowledge Center. Right. So there's definitely a lot of resources to learn more.
Yeah, the Spark Notes version is all we need right now, but I think
Yeah, exactly.
that's still good for agents to know, and
Yeah.
certainly can ask us or you or any of us to elaborate
Yeah.
on anything that they do
Right.
here from any of these podcasts.
Yeah, I don't want to blow up anybody's head while while listening to a podcast. So
yeah, or blow up my head. I mean, it's never great. It's a lot to keep track of, just to be able to do these shows and learn everything.
Yeah, right.
Really, I mean, so we certainly bear with any agents we get a lot of new agents and whoever trying to keep up with the market. But UnitedHealthcare is one that's definitely worthwhile keeping up with for sure. Now, moving down the line here, as again, I'm speaking with Brad Petrella, the broker manager there. He deals a lot with Northeast Ohio and Cleveland in particular with, as I said, to open up the show, the big kahuna, UnitedHealthcare here. I'm Mike Asti with this edition of the NF podcast here by Neishloss and Fleming. I do want to get to UnitedHealthcare has held fast in so many promises of strength and stability, which it's certainly doing. In terms of that message in particular, what do you think about it? What do you think about UnitedHealthcare in general that keeps it moving, keeps it so stable, and keeps clients and even agents, and we've touched on it mostly throughout the show. A lot of it kind of is obvious, but keep coming back to the carrier, regardless of some potential either challenges in years past where we had, somebody from UnitedHealthcare admitting they needed to improve something in a plan, or even different political affiliations that are there with ARP. But regardless of all of that, what do you think keeps UnitedHealthcare thriving?
I can probably sum it up, Mike. Last year at my national sales meeting, they came up with this new tagline to go along with strength and stability, and it's called Partners in Care. And this Partners in Care involves the whole process from a broker writing a policy. It all starts there with you, the broker. You bring them to us. You've obviously sold them on the reason they want to be with UnitedHealthcare because of these great benefits and because of something that they will experience. And so once we get them, we really, really do everything we can to engage them in multiple ways. I mean, they start getting, I hear it sometimes that, UnitedHealthcare members get more mail than probably that they do from their best friend. So that's really a great thing, in keeping them engaged, right? Getting them signed up for their initial or scheduling an appointment for their first house call. We're doing these health assessments has been added to an enrollment. It's a way an agent can make an extra $50 for basically spending 5 minutes to ask very, very simple questions that you probably already talked about when reviewing their medications or their medical care. So that's a good thing. So it starts there, right? So when we do that, we can identify those people very quickly who have multiple chronic conditions, right? We want to see them as quickly as possible. So that's how we do it. And, things like our Renew Active, right? It's our health and wellness benefit. Everybody thinks it's just a gym membership. It's not. It's so much more. I held a training last Friday with my product person from Renew Active, and I was amazed to see all the things that I talk about in real life, how they are on the website. You would think that the gym membership itself is what it's all about, because that's what we as agents have been conditioned with I don't know how to say this, the former. I won't mention any names.
Okay.
But, our utilization, and obviously gym utilization has been down because of COVID-19, but we still are seeing on average somewhere between 7 to 8% utilization of the gym, which is kind of where it always has been. But we're getting an equal amount of utilization with just the wellness piece, the brain games, the recipes, the music, the communities. There's like a Fitbit community. So we've got members engaging in more ways than ever thought of before. So that's how we continue to do it with stability. Sometimes plan premium goes up a little bit and sometimes it goes down. And in my 4 years, I've seen it go down 3 times and up once. And when it went up once was this year, and it went back to where it was 3 years ago. So, that's the stability. Or we're holding copays at the same level for inpatient, outpatient hospital procedures. We did something here in Northeast Ohio that was really amazing as an agent. I think the biggest complaint that I face with clients was regarding diagnostic testing. 20%. Well, 20% of what? I don't know. I can't tell you.
Mm-hmm.
Well, just this actually 2 years ago, we made diagnostic radiology, so CAT scan and MRIs, or CT scan and MRIs, a flat copay. It's $90. This year it's $80. So, those are the kind of things that our size brings to the game, is that we can offer all of these fantastic benefits at an affordable price. So those are, I think, the things, Mike, that we do to show our members that strength and that stability, to know that they're with the right carrier.
Yeah, I think offering a lot at an affordable price is basically the way to sum it up just perfectly, because I think that's, again, sometimes there's a misconception with a carrier like UnitedHealthcare that doesn't really, they can almost do whatever they want because they know they're going to be around forever and they've been around, but they still want to serve the agents and then in turn the clients the best they can. And you can get UnitedHealthcare at an affordable price for exactly your needs. So I think that definitely makes sense. And you did mention the relationship with Neishloss and Fleming. There certainly is one between UnitedHealthcare and us here at Neishloss and Fleming. So we have a lot at our disposal in terms of what we offer agents to help deal with UnitedHealthcare, in terms of an in-house graphic designer who can create 10 business cards, flyers, anything for any events, whenever we're allowed to do all of that. And I do think right now in the COVID situation, with even the stay-at-home orders may be ending, but with the future the way it is, I think you hit on the Fitbit. I think that's something that certainly could be big, because even bigger than before, because that's a way to track yourself and keep active while staying inside.
Right.
I know I use one for that as well. Yeah. But we have a lot. We have a social media program now called Snoozy, which can help agents either create social platforms like Twitter, Facebook, LinkedIn, any of those, even a website, or maintain them if they're already in existence and somebody's posting on those for you the way you'd want. So it can also generate online leads. We have a program called Greenhouse, which can create actual rewards and points that can allow agents to get different ways of commission, and on top of the regular commission and money coming in, but of course a commission of an Amazon gift card in addition, just for filling out a profile. So different things that can be benefits and rewards to them as well. We always have any of us that are at your disposal for an agent who can help education and talk about what Brad spoke about on this show while he's busy elsewhere. We do a lot in particular, and we even have actually most importantly, especially right now with this new environment, because we don't know how many clients are going to be comfortable with agents coming into their living room and sitting down at the kitchen table in the future, regardless of the orders from the government. And we have MedicareCenter.com, which is an online enrollment platform that, like some of the others, you can go there, you can look up doctors, prescription drugs, use it as a quote engine, but also off just saying an email, get an enrollment right there, and it'll store your profile. That'll be there all the way through AEP and beyond. So again, that's us as our way kind of to help UnitedHealthcare, then serve the agent to also serve the client. But there's a lot to be served with in terms of what UnitedHealthcare has at its disposal. So Brad, I definitely appreciate the time here for sure. I learned a lot. I think anyone listening will have learned more as well. We'll be able to do more of these and maybe bring you back here before AEP or anything else going on for sure. But any final words or tips and tricks?
Well, that would be great, Mike. Yeah, sure. I would love to come back. This has actually been fun as my first podcast, so
okay,
I'm liking it.
You're going to remember me forever then, regardless of where our lives and careers go.
I may be a regular.
Okay.
Wow.
Okay.
No, one thing I wanted to add, and it's really, it plays back to the strength and stability part, is how we reacted as a company during the whole COVID-19 crisis. We were the first to offer up any copays related to COVID at no cost. That was amazing, right? At first, it was just testing.
Right.
Then we went out and offered up, inpatient and outpatient copays waived. That's just amazing. Two, what we've done as a company, because of the 325,000 UnitedHealthcare employees, I didn't know this. 1/3 of them are actually doctors and nurses. Right, so we have acquired over the years smaller health plans throughout the country, and so that's where they come from. Plus Optum, all those visiting nurses that do house calls, and care management nurses that visit clients in their homes. Those are the things that we've done, and developing, because we have a medical side to our insurance platform. We've actually been working on research. I don't know if some of you are on LinkedIn, follow the UnitedHealthcare page. There's a lot of great sort of press releases that come out every day. We developed very quickly with Medtronic, and I'm trying to remember the other company, a lightweight respirator. It doesn't look really fancy, but it does the job. And even finding a better way to do the nasal swab test. We found out that, we don't need to put a nasal swab all the way back in somebody's brain just by going, right in their immediate nose, that we can actually get the same sample. So those are the great things. And I don't know, we've all been short on sports these past 2 months, but this past weekend on Sunday, UnitedHealthcare sponsored a skins golf outing with Rory McIlroy and Ricky Fowler.
Yeah, I watched that.
And that was really great.
Yeah,
that was really great. And you actually, if anybody watched that, you got to see our CEO in action. Talking about the things that we're doing. Many of our different, our medical doctors, our Medicare chief medical officer, he did a piece there as well. He actually developed COVID-19. And so we got to hear from him a few weeks back to tell us what it was like. So just really amazing, truly proud to work here because of the things we do, not just for our members, but to serve sort of healthcare in total. So I'm really happy about that. And I appreciate what we do with Neishloss and Fleming and the relationship we have. I know I got a demo of Medicare Center. I thought it was awesome. So if nobody's using Medicare Center and you're still writing paper, you should stop writing paper, because there may come a time very, very soon, maybe within 6 months, where you may not be able to take a paper app.
Yeah, and it does. That's kind of what we were telling people, that not only is this a great platform, but this might be forced to be the way of the future, and things might even be moved quicker in that direction based on the pandemic. And it's one of those platforms that once you get started with it, you can't press any buttons and blow anything up. It's foolproof. We're checking it to make sure nobody can do anything crazy. It's CMS regulated, and it's relatively easy to use once you tackle it. And if your only fear is because of the technology, and it might be something you're kind of forced upon you anyway. That's where the world's going. That's where the industry is going. That's kind of where everything's going to go even faster because of the pandemic. So it is out there for sure at your disposal. I actually did a podcast on that just Medicare Center a few weeks back that is on our website as well, the NANDFINC.com. All these shows are there in the webinar section as well. So any agents listening in that aren't aware, you can go there and learn all about Medicare Center. There's also a bunch of webinars that my colleague Justin McBee is doing, and that's who I had on the podcast to talk about that as well. So again, Brad, we definitely appreciate the time for sure. And again, this was another edition of the NF podcast here, presented by Neishloss and Fleming and Integrity Marketing Group. Spoke with Brad Petrella of UnitedHealthcare, broker manager there. I'm Mike Asti. Until we meet again.